Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Isaac, and today my topic is on video games. So many of you guys know in 1999 that there was a massacre at Columbine High School, and one thing that was said about that massacre was that the kids that did the shootings were influenced by video games, and like games such as Doom or other shooting games. And many families of the victims tried to have lawsuits against game manufacturers or other companies that would like stop them from sending these games out or being produced. Well, all those lawsuits failed, and I'm here to talk to you guys on my main claim about that video games do not have an effect on negative teen behavior. And my three sub-claims are that video games are usually played in like a social setting, and they can help inspire good social and networking skills. And my second sub-point is that today games are provided with ratings for assistance to those who are unsure about the game's content. And my third sub-point would be that most video games actually do not promote violence. That would be harmful on teen behavior. So back to my first point, which is that video games are played in social settings that can inspire good social and networking skills. So my first basic point for that is that 3 out of 5 teens who play video games either play them online or on some sort of other online gaming like on PlayStation 3 or Xbox Live, or they'll play with somebody else near them or in the same room. Like, I don't know if any of you guys play video games like on Xbox Live or something, but there are over 2 million users who do play online, and you can interact with other players by wearing a headset and speaking to them, or sending messages, similar to text messages, to their profile and getting responses. So, and most of the time these players are throughout the whole country or other parts of the world. So you can very easily learn to communicate with different people about different subjects or different games in general. And my second point is that ratings provide assistance to those who are unsure about the content of the game. And each game now comes with a rating in the front and the back, done by a company named ESRB. And what this does is it tells the consumer so they don't have to do any extra research or more background about the game, if it's going to be for a gift, or they're just concerned about what the game might be. They can just look at the little small box on the front, and it tells them if it's suitable for what ages of children, such as there's ratings, example E on there for everyone, or M for mature, and usually mature games require that the consumer is at least 18 years or older, so that they can understand the content of the game and it won't affect them. And these are now provided on every game that's been released, which can help the consumer understand like who to get it for and if they should be playing it or not. And this is a quote from their website, it says ESRB's website, saying ratings are designed to provide concise and impartial information about the content in computer and video games, so consumers, especially parents, can make an informed purchase. Now to my third point is that video games, like most video games, do not actually promote violence. Out of the top 5 video games right now that are most frequently played, only one of them promotes violence. The top 5 are Guitar Hero, Halo 3, Madden NFL Football, The Solitaire, and Dance Dance Revolution. And the only game out of those 5 that promotes any violence at all, or that could have a negative impact on teens, would be Halo 3. And that's a fantasy shooting game, like a humans versus aliens kind of game. And that's also played online usually. So most games nowadays, there are so many different genres of games out there, and usually the ones that get the spotlight are the ones that are seen as bad, or promote they have negative influence on teens or children. But it turns out that most of the players, less than 50% of the players that play every day or more than once a week actually play games that have violence in them. So usually, most games that are played are either puzzle games, sports games, or other strategy games. It's just that a lot of games that get the spotlight on them are shooting games and other things that have violence in them because they're looked at as being bad. And unfortunately, that all the other games have to be classified as having a harmful effect on teen behavior, but it turns out that most games actually have zero influence on negative teen behavior. That's it.
All right, the claim is identified pretty clearly. You do a good job labeling what the supporting points are, but I don't see how the supporting points are relevant to the claim that says that they don't really have this negative effect. There's a little bit of that argument on the third point when you talk about how the games that are being played are relatively non-violent. Less than half of the people who are playing video games are playing a game that has any violent element to it. That's the only evidence that I think really applies to the claim that you presented. Everything else is general arguments about the benign nature of other video games, but it doesn't necessarily show that the violent video games have none of the effects that have been ascribed to them, and I think that that's where you need to develop your argument a lot more. One of the things that you talk about on the first point is that, you know, it enhances communication, that people have a social community, so on and so forth. I'd like to know what the exchanges are like on those online games. You know, I got dollars to donuts that say that the exchanges are not. Isn't this a fascinating game? By the way, have you heard about Dance Dance Revolution 6 and how exciting it's going to be? I'll bet it's a lot of trash talk about, you know, how I killed your guy, you know, suck on it, big guy, or something like that. So, you know, I think you're making some awfully broad generalizations on those particular points. I like the statistic, like you said, at the end, where you're trying to minimize the significance of those violent games, that only Halo 3 is in the top 5 that has any of these violent tendencies, that less than half of the people who are playing video games play any games with violence in them. I think that's a pretty good way of addressing that issue, but it's only the first step in the process. And then the other information is largely just background. It doesn't really advance the claim that you're talking about. All right. Thank you.